Back in 2012, Whitney Houston's death rocked the music industry and devastated fans around the world. The story didn't end there, though, as we've since learned a whole lot more about this iconic singer. Whitney Houston's third studio album, I'm Your Baby Tonight, hit stores in 1990. The record featured 4 top 20 hits, including the title track and All the Man That I Need. One song was left off the album, though, Higher Love, a cover of Steve Winwood's 1986 hit. Album producer Narada Michael Walden finished Houston's version and prepared to send it in to Clive Davis, head of Houston's label Arista Records, for a sign-off. But Davis wouldn't allow the song to be used. In 2019, he told Rolling Stone, "We didn't want her being a cover artist at the time." Higher Love was hidden away for years. It was only heard during Houston's lifetime as a bonus cut on the Japanese issue of I'm Your Baby Tonight. That all changed in 2019, though, when Pat Houston, the executor of her sister-in-law's estate, arranged for Higher Love to finally be made available. In the years between the song's recording and its release, Arista had been absorbed into RCA Records, who brought in the Norwegian DJ and producer Kygo to create a new, more modern song around Houston's track. A posthumous hit for Houston 7 years after she died, Higher Love placed on the American adult contemporary, dance, and pop charts. When she got together with fellow superstar Bobby Brown in 1989, Whitney Houston became part of a very public pop music power couple. After her death in 2012, however, the world learned that the duo were actually 2 corners of a love triangle that involved another celebrity. The beginning of Houston's relationship with Brown sent a clear message to Eddie Murphy that their own romance was decidedly over. In 2019, Houston's close friend Robin Crawford wrote in her memoir that Murphy simply hadn't made the effort to win her over. She wrote, "She was more interested in Eddie Murphy, but he was elusive. Murphy had repeatedly tried to woo Houston and even managed to convince her to go out on a few dates, but he often failed to show up for them. In the end, Houston fell for Brown, and the two decided to get married in 1992. When Murphy got word about this, he felt enough regret to telephone Houston the morning of the wedding and ask her to reconsider. As Crawford recalled, Eddie Murphy called to say she was making a mistake.
So the conversation went, only Whitney's in, yes, I am getting married. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And obviously she did.
When Houston first found fame in the early 80s, it was strictly as a singer, albeit one with an unparalleled generational voice that embodied the very best of soul, pop, gospel, and adult contemporary music. At first, Houston's husband, Bobby Brown, wasn't all that versatile as a performer either. As a member of New Edition, he was a better dancer than he was a singer. During their relationship, the pair actively helped each other get better in the areas where they believed themselves to be lacking. Houston, for example, trained Brown to be a better singer. In his 2016 memoir, Brown recalled, "She taught me how to use my voice, how to blend my notes, how to chop my voice when I need it." In return, Brown helped Houston loosen up. He wrote, "I taught her how to dance. At first, she was uncomfortable with dancing. With the two of us working together, sharing our strengths, I think we made each other better entertainers." Whitney Houston toyed with an interest in acting when she was just starting out in showbiz, and in the early 80s, she landed an audition for The Cosby Show. Bill Cosby's hit sitcom was about a professional couple and their 5 children, and Houston so impressed producers that they offered her the role of cool teenage daughter Denise Huxtable. The Cosby Show was set to enter production to debut in the fall of 1984, and that's when Houston backed out. After realizing that her contract would tie her to The Cosby Show for at least 5 seasons, she decided that music was the better path for her. Cosby Show house director Jay Sandrich later told the Television Academy Foundation, "This girl we brought back from New York said to me, 'I can't sign this contract,' and I said, 'Why?' She said, 'Well, I want to be a singer.'" Whitney Houston and Robin Crawford met in New Jersey when they were both teenagers. They became the closest of friends and established a deep connection that lasted until the end of the 90s. Publicly identified as Houston's best friend and personal assistant, the relationship likely turned romantic at times, according to associates consulted for the 2017 documentary Whitney, Can I Be Me? Houston's friend Ellen LeVar said, "Robin provided a safe place for her." Meanwhile, bodyguard Kevin Amons recalled, "They were inseparable. They had a bond, and Bobby Brown could never remove Robin." Unfortunately, Brown's open resentment toward Crawford eventually forced an end to their friendship, with everything coming to a head on a 1999 concert tour. Even when the relationship had still been ongoing, Houston's father, John Houston, had endeavored to end it, concerned that news of a same-sex relationship might damage the singer's career. On at least one occasion, John allegedly paid off a blackmailer to prevent this information from reaching the media. Crawford herself published A Song for You in 2019, a memoir that recounted her complicated and intimate relationship with the late star.
We learned how to communicate without talking. You needed that in the music business.
In 1992, Houston successfully crossed over from music to the movies, landing the lead role of Rachel Marin in The Bodyguard. Houston was offered the part after pre-production had already begun, but screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan may have nevertheless pulled from Houston's real-life experiences to make for a more realistic movie about famous musicians. In 1988, Houston's team asked former Metropolitan Police Officer David Roberts to serve as Houston's bodyguard for a 3-month European engagement in 1988. The job wound up lasting for nearly 7 years. Roberts was unfamiliar with Houston and her music when he was hired, but he quickly became enamored with the singer. In 2025, he told the BBC, "She had the voice of an angel, clearly. I can't imagine a high-profile personality in so much demand being easier to look after." Roberts also mentioned that part of his job involved checking Houston into hotels, which he did using the codename Rachel Marin. By 2012, Houston's once explosive career had hit a slump. She hadn't enjoyed an original hit single since 1999 and hadn't starred in a feature film since The Preacher's Wife in 1996. The movie Sparkle was supposed to restore Houston's status as a major motion picture star. A remake of a 1976 drama of the same name, Houston signed on to play the disapproving mother of 3 sisters trying to make it as pop singers. As a producer, Houston tried for 12 years to get her Sparkle remake in front of cameras, but production was delayed, first by the death of planned star Aaliyah, and then again due to Houston's issues with substance abuse. Then in 2011, Sparkle finally got up and running. Although she managed to finish filming her scenes, Houston wouldn't live long enough to see the movie's release. She died in February 2012, 6 months before it hit theaters. Although she hadn't had a hit in a while, Houston had a part to play in the festivities surrounding the 2012 Grammy Awards. She performed at an event in Los Angeles on February 9th and was supposed to appear at other Grammy-related gatherings, but things soon took a turn for the worse. On Saturday, February 11th, Houston's bodyguard discovered the singer unresponsive in her room at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Beverly Hills. Revival efforts failed, and Houston was declared dead at about 4 p.m.
We have breaking news tonight out of Los Angeles, the death of singing star Whitney Houston at the age of 48.
Police on the scene didn't notice any signs of malicious intent. The singer had been found in the full bathtub of her hotel room. Drug paraphernalia was discovered near the body, and multiple prescription bottles were found in Houston's room. Blood and toxicology tests indicated that she was under the influence of 12 medications at the time of her death. An autopsy established that Houston had been a frequent user of cocaine, high quantities of which were found in her system at the time of death. It was subsequently determined that a combination of cocaine use and heart disease contributed to her death by accidental drowning. When Whitney Houston and Bobbi Brown got together in the late 80s, the accepted narrative of the time was that a sweet and innocent pop princess had fallen under the spell of a music industry bad boy. It was Brown, the story went, who introduced Houston to the drugs that caused the decline in her mental and physical health. Following Houston's drug-related death in 2012, various people who had known the singer before her marriage to Brown called out this myth for what it was. Rudy Dolezal, co-director of the documentary Whitney, Can I Be Me?, told the New York Post, "Whitney took drugs and smoked weed a long time before she could even spell Bobbi Brown." Meanwhile, Ellen LeVar said, "Everybody did it, and her brothers gave it to her. It was just something you do to have fun." Houston's brother Michael Houston admitted in a 2013 interview with Oprah Winfrey that he had introduced his younger sister to drugs, particularly various forms of cocaine. Michael and Whitney Houston were largely inseparable from childhood and into early adulthood, and she did everything he did.
I feel responsible for, always have.
Dee Dee Warwick, sister of Dionne Warwick, provided backing vocals for Aretha Franklin and sometimes performed with the Drinkard Singers, a gospel collective headed up by her aunt Cissy Houston. That made Warwick Whitney Houston's older cousin by 18 years, and in 2018, an employee and relative of Houston alleged that Dee Dee Warwick had sexually assaulted Houston during the singer's childhood. This story was corroborated for the 2018 documentary Whitney, which was produced under the supervision of Houston's family. In that documentary, Gary Garland Houston, one of Houston's brothers, claimed that Warwick had assaulted him as well as his sister. According to Houston's personal assistant, Mary Jones, the abuse resulted in long-lasting psychological ramifications and identity issues for Houston. It also led her to wonder about her sexual orientation, while the trauma inflicted by the assault led to a ramping up of her drug use in the final years of her life. Whitney Houston had one child in her lifetime, daughter Bobbi Christina Brown, born in 1993 during the singer's marriage to Bobby Brown. As an older child and preteen, mother and daughter were often photographed together, but following Houston's death, the 2018 documentary Whitney revealed that the pair rarely saw one another during the first years of Bobbi Christina's life. Days after the baby was born, Houston dropped her off unannounced at the home of a family friend and came back about 3 months later to check in. She then left this friend to raise Bobbi Christina for 8 years. Even after Houston resumed custody of her child, the traditional roles of parent and child were sometimes reversed. During Bobbi Christina's youth, it fell on her to take care of her mother when she was using drugs. By the time she was a young adult, Bobbi Christina appeared to feel profound resentment of her mother. At a point when Bobbi Christina was living with Houston, she attempted to take her own life and was hospitalized as a result. She also once expressed to Houston's sister-in-law, Pat Houston, that she fantasized about killing her mother. Like her mother, Bobbi struggled with substance abuse issues. She died in 2015. If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.